Should the military pay for a border wall? Should the census reinstate the question of citizenship in 2020 after abandoning it in the 50s? Are sanctuary cities illegal? All that and more on the table for the White House today, with the administration pelting rapid-fire immigration ideas at the public. We'll take them one at a time with some great guests. First, the United States Commerce Department has announced that it will reinstate the question of citizenship in the next census, 2020. Seems like a no-brainer, right? We should know how many citizens and non-citizens are in this country because, well, knowing stuff is good. Not so fast. California is suing the federal government over this decision, arguing that the move will discourage illegal immigrants from responding to the census, leading to an undercount in communities with significant immigration populations. In the San Francisco Chronicle, California Attorney General Xavier Becerra argues California, with its large immigrant communities, would be disproportionately harmed by depressed participation in the 2020 census. An undercount would threaten at least one of California's seats in the House of Representatives, and by extension, an elector in the Electoral College. It would deprive California and its cities and counties of their fair share of billions of dollars in federal funds. The addition of the question came at the request of the Justice Department, which claims it needs the information to enforce the Voting Rights Act and prohibit non-citizens from voting illegally. Here's the deal. The census is mandated by the Constitution, and the courts have in the past decided that the federal government has the authority to ask any question it deems relevant to carrying out its powers. This is perfectly within the authority of the Commerce Department. California argues that the question of citizenship should be excluded because it will prevent immigrants from filling out the census. They're probably not wrong, but that doesn't mean the question shouldn't be asked. What it means is that it's incumbent upon California and other states to explain to immigrant communities the importance of filling out the census and assure them that the answers are confidential. Now, the left is claiming that the inclusion of this question in the census is politically motivated. I would argue that the left's attempt to suppress the question is equally motivated by politics. It's not a coincidence that non-citizens are found disproportionately in blue states. Democrats are all too aware of the fact that the question could cost them representation in the Electoral College and in the House of Representatives, and are saying as much. All right, let me bring in my first guest to help me unpack this question. Former Secretary of State of the state of Ohio and co-chairman of the U.S. Census Monitoring Board from 1999 to 2001, Ken Blackwell. Okay, Ken, give me the lay of the land here. Why, in your understanding, was this question dropped from past censuses, and why is it being resurrected?
Well, back in 1980, there was a case before the the Washington, D.C. District Court. It was brought by the Federation for American Immigration Reform. The court in D.C. decided that this organization didn't have standing, and it was only the proper wherewithal of states to bring this sort of issue to court. And the court then went on to say reasons why it felt that it was not in the best interest to move on the basis of citizenship. And so we haven't heard much of that until now. And, you know, citizenship matters. And I think that there is no question that the federal government has the right to ask the question. I think what's going to be contested is whether or not they compel an answer to that question, and I think it's going to be decided by the courts. Last month, the Attorney General of New York and some other Attorney Generals sent a letter basically saying that this was a concern. The AG from California got out in front of them, and I'm sure you're going to have New York, California, some other blue states raise this issue. It's going to be decided. It's going to be decided by the courts, and I think it's going to be decided that the question is proper. Citizenship matters when it comes to drawing lines and representation. Citizens, in fact, should have a voice, and it matters that we know, where citizens are and how they should be represented on the basis of how we draw lines.
So Democrats like Javier Becerra are sort of nakedly admitting that they have political concerns when it comes to including this question in the census. Why, in your opinion, are Democrats so averse to including what appears to be a fairly basic question in, mandatory censuses?
I think in your opening statement, you summed it up beautifully. This is a political matter. Folks who believe in expanding the welfare state, folks who believe in positioning themselves as representing those who are without, those who have been left behind, they will make the political argument that this is an unfair question to ask. And it's the same groups that argue that we should not have, really borders that determine who can vote and where they can vote. Mm-hmm. So, as they are arguing, for voters without borders, they will argue that citizenship should not matter in determining the district lines that are drawn on the basis of citizenship. Mm-hmm. Citizenship has its privileges and its obligations. And I think that it's very, very important for us to say we are a nation of laws. We can ask the questions. We, in fact, will give the benefits and expect the obligations of citizens mm-hmm. that we don't from those who have come here illegally. So this is going to be a question that's going to be solved in court, but it has political adversaries.
Yeah, for sure.
As you've described.
Yeah. Ken, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.